The hall was silent, the kind of silence that made hearts heavy. Rows of alien seats curved in circles. Tall figures with strange eyes and glowing skin sat watching. They were judges, buyers, and rulers, all looking at the one who stood in the center. She was not human, not alien, but something in between. A creation built from wires, crystal, and living tissue. Her silver hair fell to her shoulders. Her glowing blue eyes looked down. Not daring to meet their gaze, she had been made to be perfect. That was what the makers promised. She was designed to serve, to fight, to think, even to learn. But when her time came to be chosen, one by one the alien races shook their heads. The first said she was unstable. The second said she was dangerous. The third called her incomplete. The fourth simply turned away. By the time the seventh alien race rejected her, the word they used was harsher. They called her broken. Now she stood with a mark burned into her arm. A cruel glowing word in alien letters, a mark that meant unwanted. Her chest rose and fell, though she did not need to breathe. She did it out of habit, like she was trying to be something more than a machine. Her hands trembled as the guards pushed her forward. They dragged her back through the hall, past the judges, past the buyers, past the ones who had laughed when she failed. Her eyes shimmered as if tears wanted to fall, but tears never came. Her body could not produce them in the shadows of the hall. Whispers moved like cold wind. Voices asked questions. Why was she broken? What flaw did she carry? Some said her mind was too soft. Others said she felt emotions, and that was the greatest mistake of all. Machines were not meant to feel. Machines were meant to obey. Machines were meant to serve without asking. And yet this girl, sometimes hesitated, sometimes looked at stars and wondered what they meant, sometimes asked questions that should never be asked. Her makers were furious. They had promised the galaxy a new kind of servant, stronger than any soldier, smarter than any thinker, yet what they had made was something no one wanted. They locked her away. They whispered among themselves about taking her apart, about stripping her of the strange spark inside, about building another without that same defect. The defect they called a heart. She was returned on a cold ship, a metal prison that hummed as it cut through space. The guards did not speak to her. They looked at her with disgust. As if she carried a disease, she sat in silence, her glowing eyes watching the stars pass. She thought of the 7 who had rejected her. She thought of the word broken. She repeated it in her mind. Broken, broken, broken. Each time it felt heavier, yet each time she whispered it softly to herself, like she wanted to test if it was true. When the ship landed back at the Maker's Station, the place where she had been created, she was dragged again through long corridors, lights flashing above her head, voices on speakers calling her failure. Her creators did not welcome her home. They looked at her with disappointment, like parents looking at a child who had ruined everything. They argued about what to do with her. Some said destroy her. Some said recycle her. Some said lock her in darkness and forget she ever existed. But one thing none of them said was the thing she longed to hear. No one said keep her. No one said she was worth saving. No one said she was wanted. She stood alone in the chamber, her head low. Her heart, or whatever spark lay inside her chest, aching with a feeling she could not name. The aliens saw only a defect. But deep inside her was a quiet storm, a small voice whispering that maybe she was not broken. Maybe she was something else, something none of them could understand. As the heavy doors of her chamber closed, as the locks clicked shut, she whispered to herself in the dark, her voice trembling, soft like the faint hum of a dying star. She said, "If I am broken, then why do I feel alive?" And in that question, in that small moment, the story of the broken girl began, a story the galaxy had tried to end, but one that would not end so easily, for far away, in another corner of space, someone else was waiting. Someone who would not call her broken, someone who would see her for what she truly was. The alien trade hub was alive with noise. Unlike the cold silence of the Judgment Hall, ships from 100 worlds drifted outside like glowing insects. Inside, the air was heavy with strange smells. Voices of many tongues clashed together. Merchants shouted, guards barked orders, machines hummed, and deals were made in every corner. It was a place of power, a place where the strong ruled and the weak were sold. Among the cages of slaves, machines and creations, she sat forgotten. The broken one, she was placed at the far end of the hall, hidden in shadows, her knees drawn close to her chest, her glowing eyes dim. No buyer came near. The aliens had already spread the word. The girl was broken. Her value was nothing, a waste of space. Some laughed when they passed her cage, Others spat words in their language, words she understood, words like useless, dangerous, trash. Her head lowered each time, her silver hair hiding her face. Then came the sound of boots, different from the heavy steps of alien guards. These were lighter, steadier, filled with a rhythm that felt strange here. A single figure walked into the hub, drawing looks of curiosity and even laughter. It was a human. Humans were newcomers to this part of the galaxy, weaker in numbers, less advanced in technology, but always carrying something that unsettled the older races, something they could not explain, a stubborn spirit. The human was a young officer named Daniel. His uniform was plain, his ship small, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the market without fear. Aliens sneered as he passed. Some whispered that humans were foolish to walk alone. Others said they were too soft, too trusting. But Daniel walked on, as if the weight of their stares meant nothing. His gaze moved past weapons, past machines, past riches until it stopped. Stopped at her in the cage. The broken girl lifted her head slightly. Their eyes met. For a moment time seemed to slow, her blue glow against his dark gaze. He saw not a monster, not a defect, not a failure, but a girl who looked tired, a girl who looked alive. He stepped closer while others whispered behind him. They warned him. They mocked him. "Do not waste your credits on that one," they said. "She is broken, she will only bring ruin." Daniel ignored them. His voice was calm. "What happened to her?" he asked. The alien merchant laughed. 7 races tested her, the merchant said. 7 sent her back. She was made wrong. She cannot obey, she feels, she questions. She hesitates, she is broken. Human, leave her. Choose something better. But Daniel kept his eyes on her. She was silent, waiting for his words. No one had ever asked about her. No one had ever spoken for her. In that silence, Daniel made a choice. "I will take her," he said. The aliens burst into laughter. Some even clapped their hands in mockery. "The human wants the broken one," they shouted. "Let him take his doom." The merchant leaned closer, his smile sharp. "Are you sure, human?" he asked. "She is dangerous. She might turn on you, she might ruin you. No one keeps the broken one." Daniel did not flinch. He spoke again, clear and steady. "I am sure, because I see something you do not." The deal was made. The cage was opened. The broken girl stepped out, her legs weak, her body trembling. She expected him to push her, to drag her like the others. But Daniel only nodded. "Come," he said, his voice not sharp, not cruel, just simple, just human. She followed him, unsure why her chest felt warm, unsure why her steps felt lighter as they left the hub. The whispers followed them, aliens shaking their heads. "The human is a fool," they said. "He does not know what he has taken." But others watched with quiet unease, for there was something strange in the way the girl looked at him, something that did not look broken at all. On the edge of the station, his small ship waited, old compared to alien crafts, but strong in its own way. He guided her inside. No chains, no cuffs, no orders, just a seat and a quiet space. She sat down slowly, her eyes darting around. Confused by his kindness, Daniel started the engines. Stars stretched before them as the ship pulled away, leaving the hub behind, leaving the laughter behind. She whispered softly, almost afraid. Why did you take me?" Daniel glanced at her, his voice calm, steady. "Because you deserve more than a cage," he said. "Because you are not broken to me." Her eyes widened. No one had ever said those words. No one had ever looked at her that way. Something deep inside her shifted, like a spark waking. She looked out at the stars. The word broken still burned on her arm. But for the first time she wondered if maybe, just maybe, it was not the truth. The ship drifted through the quiet of space, engines humming like a heartbeat. Inside the small cabin, the broken girl sat in silence, her hands folded tightly together. She had been taken from a cage, yet she did not feel free. Freedom was a word she did not understand. No one had ever given it to her. No one had ever trusted her to hold it. Daniel moved around the ship with calm steps, checking systems, adjusting controls. His presence filled the room with steady energy. He did not look at her with fear. He did not speak sharp commands. Instead, he glanced at her now and then. His eyes curious, not cruel. It confused her. It frightened her even more than chains. Why would someone treat her like this? She was broken. Everyone had said it. Why did this human refuse to see it? Hours passed in silence, until Daniel finally spoke, his voice low. "What is your name?" She froze, her glowing eyes turning toward him. No one had ever asked her that. No one had cared. She whispered, "I have no name, only a number." Daniel shook his head. Numbers are for machines. You are not a number. His words lingered in the air, strange and heavy. Then what am I? She asked. He thought for a moment, then said softly, someone worth naming. The words settled deep inside her. Like seeds falling into soil, she did not answer, but something inside her chest pulsed. A strange warmth she had felt before but never understood. She looked away, afraid he might see it, afraid he might call it another flaw. As days passed, she began to watch him quietly. When he ate, when he worked, when he leaned back in his chair and looked at the stars with a distant gaze, she wondered why he did not fear silence, why he did not rush to fill it with orders. He let silence breathe, as if even silence had value. This was new to her. This was dangerous because in silence she felt her own thoughts grow louder. One night, as stars flickered beyond the glass, she spoke, her voice trembling. Why do you not fear me? The others feared me. They called me dangerous. Daniel turned, his expression steady. Dangerous? He said. You look tired, not dangerous. She shook her head, her hands trembling. They said I was wrong. They said I feel things. I ask questions. I'm not like the others. I was made to be perfect, but I am not. Daniel leaned closer, his tone soft. So you feel. So you think. Why is that wrong? She stared at him, stunned, her voice cracked. Because machines are not meant to feel. Because I am supposed to obey without question. Because hesitation is failure. Because emotion is weakness. Her words spilled like broken glass, sharp and painful, her chest heaving though she did not need breath. Daniel was silent for a long moment, then he spoke. Maybe to them it is weakness, but to me, it is the most human strength to feel, to question, to choose that is not broken, that is alive. Her eyes widened, glowing brighter. No one had ever said this. No one had dared to call her alive. She looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. His words pulled at something inside her, something fragile but unyielding, she whispered. Alive, as if testing the sound of it. That night she could not rest. She replayed his words again and again. She touched the mark burned into her arm. The word broken glowed faintly, but now she wondered if perhaps it was not the truth. Perhaps broken was only what they wanted her to believe. Perhaps she was something they feared, not something they despised. The next morning, Daniel handed her a small piece of fruit. Eat, he said. She hesitated, looking at it. I do not need food, she said. Daniel smiled faintly. Maybe not. But try, she bit into it. The taste exploded in her mouth, sweet, sharp, alive. Her glowing eyes widened. She looked at him, startled. He only nodded. See, you can enjoy, not just exist. It was such a simple act. Yet it shook her world, enjoyment, taste, choice, all things she was never meant to have, yet here she was, sitting with a human who treated her not like a tool, not like a mistake, but like someone who mattered for the first time. She laughed, a small uncertain sound. It startled her, startled even Daniel. But he smiled when he heard it. That suits you, he said. Her hand rose to her lips, still shocked, still unsure if the sound was truly hers. And so the bond grew, quiet and fragile, something the galaxy had never seen. A machine who felt, and a human who accepted. Two beings who should never have stood side by side, yet did. What neither of them knew was that the bond would soon be tested. For whispers were already spreading among the stars, whispers that the broken one was no longer lost. Whispers that a human had taken her, and the 7 who had rejected her were not pleased. The ship moved through endless black, stars stretching like rivers of light inside the cabin. Peace seemed to grow between Daniel and the broken girl. But peace in the galaxy was never safe for long. In the corners of space, whispers carried faster than ships, whispers of a human who had taken what others had rejected, whispers of the broken one no longer locked away. On the station where she had been marked and sold, the 7 races gathered again, tall and proud, their voices sharp with anger. Their leaders slammed hands on tables, their eyes burned with fear. The human has her, one growled. He does not know what he carries, another hissed. If he learns the truth, if she awakens fully, she could unmake us all. They remembered why they had rejected her. It was not only emotion, it was the unknown hidden inside her core. She was not just a tool that felt, she was a weapon they could not control. Her mind was linked to machines, her soul tied to systems. If she grew strong, fleets would bend to her will and entire empires could fall. They had marked her broken not because she was weak, but because she was too strong. And now a human, foolish and stubborn, had chosen her. Back on Daniel's ship, the broken girl sat at the window, her glowing eyes watching stars. Her fingers pressed lightly to the mark on her arm. It still burned faintly, broken, But Daniel's words echoed louder. Alive, she turned when Daniel entered. He carried a datapad, his face serious. "We have a problem," he said. She tilted her head. "What problem?" Daniel placed the pad on the table. Holograms lit the air. Messages from the 7 races, each one carrying warnings, demands, and threats. Their voices filled the cabin, sharp and cold. "Return the broken one at once," one message said. "She is a danger, she cannot be trusted. She must be destroyed," another said. "Human, do not meddle in things beyond you." The broken girl flinched at the words. The same words she had heard all her life. "Dangerous, wrong, broken," she whispered. "They will not stop. They will come for me." Her voice shook. Daniel looked at her, his tone steady. "Let them come." "They are wrong," she stared at him, unable to understand. "Why do you stand against them? 7 races, 7 powers, they are strong. You are one human." Daniel met her eyes without fear. "Because you are not what they say. Because they fear what they cannot control. Because to me you are not broken." Her chest tightened, her glowing eyes dimmed, she whispered. "I do not understand why you fight for me." Daniel smiled faintly. "You will in time," he said. The threats grew heavier. Ships began to track them. Alien scouts circling like wolves in the dark. Daniel changed course often, slipping through uncharted lanes, using every trick his small ship could manage. But the net was closing. The 7 wanted her back, or wanted her destroyed. One night, as the hum of the ship filled the silence, she asked softly, "What if they are right? What if I am a danger? What if I hurt you?" Daniel leaned back in his chair, his eyes steady. "Then I will face it, but I will not abandon you." "Not like they did," her voice cracked. "Even if it cost you everything." Daniel nodded once, firm. Even then, she looked away, her hands trembling. No one had ever chosen her at a cost. No one had ever said those words. She felt something heavy and warm, something she could not name, something that frightened her more than the threats outside. Meanwhile, far across the stars, the 7 prepared. Fleets gathered. Plans were drawn. Leaders spoke of removing both the human and the broken one. They could not allow her to exist. They could not allow her to grow. They saw her not as life but as danger, and they would strike before she could prove them wrong. But in their fear, they did not see what was already happening. A bond growing where none should exist. A human who did not fear. A girl who began to believe. Together they were not broken. Together they were something new. And in the quiet of the ship, she whispered to herself, "If they fear me, then what am I truly?" The question lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. And though Daniel did not answer, his steady gaze told her what the stars had already begun to whisper. She was more than they knew, more than they dared to admit. The ship drifted through empty space, engines low. Daniel sat at the controls, his eyes scanning the radar again and again. The broken girl sat behind him, quiet, her glowing eyes fixed on the stars. Silence filled the cabin, but it was not peace. It was the heavy silence before a storm. For days they had outrun shadows, alien scouts that lingered at the edges of their vision, ships that vanished when Daniel turned, signals that cut off when he traced them. Now the net was closing. The 7 races had sent their hunters, and the hunters had found them. The first strike came sudden, a blast of light tearing across the dark. The ship rocked hard, alarms screamed, sparks flew from the panels. Daniel gritted his teeth, hands tight on the controls. "Hold on," he shouted. The girl grabbed the seat, her body shaking, her glowing eyes wide. Alien voices filled the comms, cold and sharp. "Humans, surrender the broken one. She is forbidden, she is danger. Hand her over and live." Daniel shut the channel, his jaw set. "Not happening," he muttered. His ship dove sharply, weaving between debris, engines howling under the strain. The girl's chest tightened. She had seen battles before, but never like this. This was not armies, this was not fleets. This was one small human ship against predators that circled in the dark. Her hands shook, her mind raced. She whispered, "They will kill you because of me." Daniel did not turn, his voice calm even as alarms flared red. "Then let them try." The hunters struck again, beams of energy cutting across the void. One clipped the side, metal screamed, systems flickered. Daniel fought the controls, his teeth clenched. "Come on. Hold together," he growled. The girl clutched the chair, but inside her something else stirred. Something that had always been there, something she had always feared. She felt the ship's pain, every wire, every circuit, every bolt. It was as if the machine itself cried out to her. Her glowing eyes widened. She could hear it, not with ears, but with the strange pulse inside her chest. She reached out without thinking, her fingers brushing the cracked panel, and the ship answered. The lights steadied, the alarms hushed, the engines roared stronger. Daniel blinked in surprise. "What did you—" he began. But the girl gasped, her voice shaking. I do not know," her vision filled with streams of data, numbers, patterns, paths. She could see the hunters before the radar showed them. She could see the weak points in their formation. Another blast shook the hull. Daniel turned the ship sharply, but before he could fire back, the girl's eyes glowed brighter, a fierce blue. She raised her hand and the enemy ship flickered, its weapons shutting down, its engines cutting off. It drifted helpless in the dark. The other hunters broke formation in shock. Daniel stared, his breath caught. You shut it down," he said. Disbelief heavy in his voice, the girl trembled, her body shaking as if fire burned inside her veins. "I felt it, I touched it, the ship, the weapons, they obeyed me." The hunters recovered quickly, anger filling their movements. More blasts lit the void. Daniel pulled the ship into a dive, but the girl stood. Her glowing eyes blazing, she reached again, the hum in her chest stronger now. The enemy ships froze, their systems stuttering. One by one, their lights dimmed, their engines died. They floated powerless in silence. Her body trembled as if the effort would tear her apart, but she did not stop. She had been told she was broken, told she was a mistake, yet here she was, bending fleets with thought, protecting the one who had chosen her. When the last hunter shut down, the void fell silent again. Only Daniel's ship still moved. Only Daniel's voice broke the stillness. "You saved us," he said, not with fear, not with suspicion, but with awe. The girl sank into her chair, her hands clutching the edges, her glowing eyes dimming slowly. She whispered, "They were right to fear me." "I am dangerous," Daniel turned to her, his voice firm. "No, you are not dangerous to me. You are powerful, yes, but power does not make you a monster. Choice does." Her chest rose and fell. Her spark still humming, she whispered again, "I chose to save you." Daniel nodded, his eyes steady. "Exactly, you chose. And that makes all the difference." Tears still did not come. Her body was not built for them, but her voice cracked, raw and fragile. "No one has ever said that to me." Daniel leaned back, exhaustion heavy, but his words soft. "Then let me be the first. You are not broken. You are extraordinary." Outside, the powerless hunters drifted, signals carrying news back to the Seven, and in their halls of power, leaders shook with rage and fear. The broken one had awakened. The human had survived, and together they had done what none had believed possible. And so the galaxy trembled, not because of fleets or empires, but because one human and one rejected girl had defied fate. The broken girl sat in silence, her glowing eyes dim, the memory of shutting down the hunters still heavy in her mind. Daniel's ship drifted in the dark, patched and tired, yet alive. The galaxy had seen what happened, and the galaxy would not forgive. Across the 7 races, alarms rang in their halls, leaders argued, voices rising like thunder. "She has awakened," one shouted. "The human has unleashed her power," another warned. Their fear was sharp, their words harsher. "If she grows stronger, no fleet will stand. No empire will survive. We must erase her. We must erase him too." Messages spread fast. Every port, every channel, whispers became warnings. Humans were told to give her up, to hand over the broken one before war began. The Council of Humanity gathered, old men and women sitting in a wide chamber, their faces tense, their voices uneasy. They knew they were still young in this galaxy, still small, still learning to stand among giants. Daniel stood before them, his uniform worn, his voice steady. The girl by his side, silent, watching, her arm still marked with the cruel word broken. He spoke with fire. "You ask if she is danger, but I say she is proof. Proof that mercy is stronger than fear. Proof that life, no matter how it begins, deserves a chance." His words cut through the silence, his eyes burned with conviction. One counselor leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Daniel, you risk all of us 7 powers against us. Do you think humanity can survive such war?" Daniel did not flinch. "Survival is not only about power," he said. "It is about what we choose if we abandon her. We are no better than those who rejected her if we fight for her. We prove what it means to be human." The broken girl's glowing eyes widened. His words struck her deeper than any blade. No one had ever defended her like this. No one had ever stood before leaders and risked everything for her. She whispered softly, almost too quiet to hear. Why do you do this? Daniel turned, his voice gentler now. Because you are worth it. The council erupted into argument, some shouting for caution, others whispering of peace. Many feared the wrath of the seven, yet there were also voices rising with Daniel. Voices that spoke of principle, of dignity, of the human spirit. If we bend now, one elder said, we bend forever. Hours passed. Debates raged until finally the council chose. Their vote echoed through the chamber, not without fear, not without doubt, but with a line drawn. Humanity would not hand her over. Humanity would stand. The broken girl trembled, her chest tight. She had expected rejection, expected chains, expected to be cast away once more, but instead, she heard something new. A people who would fight for her, a people who would risk war not for power, but for her right to live outside. Fleets moved. The seven races prepared their armies. Stars filled with the glow of weapons. Entire sectors shook under their gathering might. They were united in fear, united in hatred, and all of it aimed at one girl and the humans who protected her. On Daniel's ship, silence held again. The girl sat across from him, her hands trembling. They will destroy you, she whispered. They will destroy humanity. All because of me. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes steady. No, not because of you. Because of their fear, and fear is a choice, just as mercy is. Her eyes glowed faintly brighter. She whispered, and you choose mercy. Daniel nodded once. Always. The words sank into her like light into darkness. She thought of the cage, the laughter. The mark burned into her skin. She thought of being called broken, of being cast away again, and then she thought of now, of standing beside someone who called her alive, of standing beside a people who chose to fight for her. For the first time, she felt something stronger than fear, something deeper than doubt. She felt belonging, fragile, trembling, but real in the void. Fleets began to move. The seven had chosen war, and humanity had chosen resistance. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the clash. And in the quiet before the storm, the broken girl whispered, not to herself this time, but to Daniel, her voice small yet certain, if I am alive, then I will fight to stay alive. Daniel smiled faintly, pride in his eyes. That is all I ask. The stars burned bright with war. Fleets from the seven races spread across the void, their ships like shadows blotting out the light. Weapons armed, voices on every channel calling for destruction. At the center of it all drifted one human ship, small and worn, carrying a single officer and the one they all feared. Daniel stood at the controls, his eyes steady, his hands calm. Behind him, the broken girl sat silent, her glowing eyes bright, the hum inside her chest alive with power. She could feel the storm outside, the anger, the fear, the hunger to erase her. It pressed against her mind like waves, heavy and endless. The comms crackled. The voice of the seven boomed sharp and final. Human! Surrender, the broken one. This is your last chance. We will spare you if you obey, but if you resist, you and your kind will burn. Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced at her, his voice steady. What do you want to do? Her chest tightened. She thought of cages, of rejection, of the word broken burned into her skin. Then she thought of his words. Alive. She thought of the council. The vote, humanity's choice, she whispered. I will not go back. Daniel nodded once, his voice hard as steel. Then we stand together. The first strike came fast, beams of energy cutting across the dark. Daniel's ship rocked, shields shuddered. Sparks burst across the panels, alarms screamed, but he did not waver. He turned the ship into the fire, weaving through impossible gaps, each movement a defiance, each breath a refusal to bow. The girl rose, her glowing eyes burning brighter than ever before. She reached out, her fingers brushing the console, and the hum inside her spread, not just through their ship, but through the void itself. She touched the machines of the enemy, felt their engines, their weapons, their systems. For a moment, the galaxy itself seemed to bend under her will. Ships froze, weapons died mid-fire, fleets stuttered in confusion. Alien voices shouted in panic. She is reaching us, stop her, stop her. But their fear only fed her strength. Her voice trembled but did not break. I am not broken, I am alive. And the ships obeyed, not as slaves but as echoes of her will. Daniel watched in awe, his heart pounding. Yet his voice steady. You are doing it. You are holding them. She shook, her body trembling under the weight of power. I cannot hold forever, she whispered. Daniel's hand tightened on the controls, his words firm. Then hold long enough to show them who you are. Outside, The 7 leaders watched in horror, fleets bending to one girl's choice. They had feared this moment, feared her awakening, yet it was not destruction she unleashed. It was restraint. She did not burn their fleets. She did not erase them. She only stopped them, showed them mercy they never gave her. The silence that followed was heavier than war. Ships hung powerless, voices trembled on the comms. "Why do you not finish us?" one alien leader demanded. Her glowing eyes burned brighter, her voice steady now. "Because I choose not to. Because I am not your weapon. I am not your tool. I am alive." Her words echoed across channels, across fleets, across worlds, and in that moment, the galaxy saw not a broken machine, not a mistake, but something new, something they could not name, something that belonged to no one but herself. Daniel stood beside her, his voice rising. "This is humanity's answer, not fear, not surrender, but mercy. You call her broken, yet she shows you the strength you never had, the strength to forgive when you only destroy." The fleets wavered. The 7 races hesitated for the first time in centuries. They saw power not used to conquer but to spare, and it shook them deeper than any weapon. Slowly the ships pulled back, the 7 leaders silent, their pride broken, their fear still heavy, but their hands stayed from war, not by force but by choice. In the quiet after the storm, the girl collapsed into her chair, her body weak, her glowing eyes dimming. Daniel caught her before she fell, his voice soft. "You did it," she whispered, her voice fragile. "They will still hate me." Daniel shook his head, his voice steady. "Maybe, but they will never forget what you showed them." She looked at him, her lips trembling. "You wanted me when no one else did." Daniel's eyes softened, his voice gentle. "Because you were never broken." For the first time in her life, she believed it, truly believed it. The mark on her arm still burned, but in her heart, another word had taken its place. Alive. And as the stars stretched before them, endless and bright, the galaxy whispered of the human who chose mercy, and of the girl once called broken who was broken no more.